Previously on the Brumby build series, things had started to get tricky and my patience was tested. This time though, we're playing Tetris with the engine bay components. Hey everyone, welcome back to the shed and the Brumby build. Into episode 6 I mentioned that I wanted to spend some time laying everything out in the engine bay of the Brumby and trying to make it look as much as possible like it was the way that Subaru had always intended it, that Subaru had actually fitted that engine, not, you know, some backyard hack. So yeah, that's the plan for today. I'm kind of excited about this because this is going to be one of the aspects of the whole build that will make it look like a quality build. So what is the plan? What have we got to put in there? Well, all of these parts are off the outhouse. So I suppose starting here we have the intake duct that feeds the airbox, so that's got the air filter in it. Forgive me if I don't have all the exact terminology on this, but basically that duct feeds the airbox and through the air filter down through this duct to this airbox that sits at the back of the engine and feeds into the plenum and the intake manifold on the top of the engine. I did do a pretty good job of bagging and tagging, if I do say so myself. So I've got, those are the mounts for the airboxes. We've also got the alternator, which I want to at least position and make sure that that's not going to have a massive impact on the amount of clearance we will have between the engine and the bonnet, because on Subarus the alternator sits on top of the engine. We have the accessories drive here, including the little covers and stuff. We've got the battery box, because on the Brumby, the battery is on the front right-hand corner, and on the Outback, that's precisely where the air filter sits. So yeah, probably relocate the battery maybe over to the other side of the engine bay. Seems like a logical place. So I've got the battery box here, so I don't have to mess around carrying the whole, or battery tray rather. I don't have to mess around carrying the whole battery. I can just use that as a guide. And then if I get time, I want to have a look at the radiator situation. So this is the original radiator off the outhouse. If I can use this, that would be great for a couple of reasons. One is it has the outlets and inlets in the right place rather, and they are the correct size. The Brumby one, it's a physically smaller radiator, which might not be up to the job of keeping the EJ25 cool, and it's also got smaller diameter hose couplings. And then we have a ginger bear that's coming in to share the limelight. So yeah, and it's physically quite a slim radiator. So if I can use this one, if I can use this one, that would be ideal. So what I might do, before I even try fitting it in, I might whistle these fans off, and then I have the brackets and everything, and I'll see if I can make those fit. So yeah, I suppose that's the rough plan for today. I'll start at this end of the bench and work my way along. I don't have masses of time today, so I'll get as far as I can with it. All that said, let's jump into it. This is probably the first piece of the puzzle. Now this guy sat in here on the Outback, and immediately it's pretty obvious that this is going to be snug if it's going to work at all. So what have we got in the way at the moment? We have a whole bunch of wiring that potentially might move. So we've got the battery terminals here from where they went on the Brumby. This is very puny wire. I will definitely be replacing this, and my plan at this point is to move the battery over that side of the engine bay, similar to where it was in the Outback. So this lot will get replaced. In fact, I could probably whistle him off immediately. Maybe I'll just do that. I have lost my freaking screwdriver and my mind. There it is. Let's just remove him altogether. And this lot is all going to need to go forward. We've got a little tab there that might need to come off. That's going to be snug. Apologies for the awkward camera angles. It's really hard to get it lined up in a way that you guys can see what I'm doing and the camera isn't blocking my view and that I'm not blocking your view. So let me just tilt this down a little bit more. So if he goes on here and we have good clearance for him, I'll get this guy out the way for now. We have one bracket that goes under there, That'll work nicely. I don't even need to bolt that in. Yes, that will work. Okay, so that guy is good to go. So that tab is hanging out in thin air, so I can chop him off, and that I'm pretty sure was for a power steering line, so he can be chopped off as well. So he's just a hose clip, and I can even trim that guy off if I need to. So that bit's all good. We have a very small amount of flex available there. Okay, so that wiring loom is going to be in the way. That's not too much of a disappointment, because I'm actually thinking I might take this wiring loom and put it inside the guard, because that will clean this area up. We've got a fusible link here that if you did have a major short or something, this guy would blow first before any of your other fuses, and then there's only so far we can go before we hit the headlight, so that's probably going to have to be relocated. Not the end of the world. One thing that is pretty clear though is, see this fella, which is our duct, would normally sit across the front of the Outback. We just don't have the room. It would be sitting out over here. So he is definitely in the bin. That's a shame. Right, what about the battery? Okay, so I'll just bring the battery tray over for now, because realistically I just need to see the footprint of it. Now at the moment we've got the bracket here that used to hold the spare wheel, sorry, not the spare wheel, the jack. But that he should be easily removed. So there's plenty of room here for a battery. That is good news. And of course I can go for a smaller battery. There's definitely way smaller options than the one that was the Outback. There's lithium options and all sorts, so the battery can be smaller if I need to be. In the Outback, this is where the fuse box was sitting. Wonder if I should grab the fuse box. Let's do that, eh? Okay, so this is the housing that the fuse box lived in, and I'm pretty sure it went in like that. Without that bracket there, I think this will probably actually mount in there. That's actually going to fit quite nicely. There's clearance on all sides. I may need to either position the battery a little bit further out or go for a smaller battery, but that actually looks to me like both the battery and the fuse box will fit in there. So I think for now that is my plan, although if I go an aftermarket ECU, I could leave the factory Brumby fuses in their original position, which is down underneath the steering column, and then I could have a small fuse box over here that was just for the engine and ECU wiring loom. And if I do that, then I can either buy or even 3D print a small fuse box just to hold the fuses that are required by the engine. What I might need to do is, did you guys hear the pheasant flying past? Noisy buggers. Anyway, I can use this hole to feed the wiring loom through. If I do wind up using quite a bit of the Outback wiring loom, it had the fuse box in here, and it has this little opening that used to feed through into the inner wheel well and then run back to the cabin. So I wouldn't even need to make a new hole potentially. I could run the cable down the side of the battery and then through there. Not to mention that we've actually got a grommet back here that I could take advantage of. I could run wires through here and in there if I needed to, but it might be tidier if they go through the fender, through the guard. Let's just try the radiator and see how that's going to fit. I want to get the fans off this guy to make it easier to fit. Those just seem in position, and there's our screws. Okay. Hey, Mickle Bear. You here to help or just get in the way? Is this going to be as easy? Oh, look at that. Comes off as one unit. Marvellous. Oh, Mick, please don't stand on that. This bolt's a little bit awkward. It's in behind the coolant overflow. Don't worry, I'll skip through this in the edit. Right, here we go. Boom, just like that. Only skinny, that is pretty good. We know that the coolant inlet and outlets are the right size and the right position. That's good. So I suppose all I've got to do is figure out if this will fit in the space. He needs to go in around this way. It's going to have to sit somewhere about there. I think it's going to be too tall. Okay, so what have we got? Pull this guy carefully out. I don't want to damage him. Right, let me grab the camera. The Brumby radiator mounts on these guys down here. I think it actually fits entirely within that space and bolts on at the top up there. I've got a little bit of an issue with this wiring loom. He runs all the way across the front. Now I can reroute him. He could actually go in along here, and that would solve two issues. It would give us more clearance for our exhaust headers, which you can remember the tin cover on the exhaust was tapping on that conduit, and you would get this guy out of the way over here from our air filter box. That might actually solve multiple problems for me. I'd better loosen up some of these wiring harnesses and start moving them out the way, hadn't I? Let's actually just get him all the way back over there, eh? I think he would need to sit up about there. That could very well work. I think I've got enough room to put a small fan on this side and maybe a slightly bigger fan over there. Yeah, I think the bottom coolant will be okay. The top one, probably okay. What about the alternator though? So here's our alternator, and he bolts on there. The alternator uses the front pulley. Let me show you what I mean. If we have a look at the alignment of the alternator when it's sitting up here, oh, this is a bit awkward to hold and film, but he's actually in line with the front part of that pulley. I was thinking I might have been able to swap this out for a single, because all I'm going to have on the front of here will be the alternator. Hopefully that light's not blinding. I'll just turn that off. It doesn't look like I'm going to be able to do that. That back belt, which uses this as the tensioner, must have run air compressor pump, which is over here, or the power steering pump, which is over here on the Outback. And now I'm not at this point using either one of those, and I was thinking, well, I'll just go down to one belt, one pulley, we'll all be good. But no, the alternator uses the front one, so I could remove this tensioner because the alternator has its own tensioner. That would work, but that doesn't necessarily gain me any extra depth through here. But by taking that off, potentially that will give me more room over this side for a larger diameter fan, which is not a bad thing at all. So yeah, all in all, I think it's going to be workable. I've just got to figure out the best way to do it. But yeah, I think it's definitely going to involve rerouting the wiring harness and seeing if I can get that Outback radiator in there, because it is quite a bit bigger than the Brumby one. It's all looking promising. So it's good for me to talk this stuff through with you guys. It's the way my brain's always kind of worked, that if I write stuff down, recap what I've done, talk to mates about it, all that sort of stuff, it helps me process the ideas and cement the way forward in my own mind. And yeah, so I appreciate you guys listening to my ramblings and watching as I work this stuff out. Hopefully you're getting something out of this as well, because I'm certainly enjoying the process so far. And yeah, so at this point, I'll sign off. I'll leave you guys to it. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next episode of the Brumby Build series.